Hello, I'm I'm live. I hope some people can hear me, see me, and join me. Surprisingly, an hour earlier than I was expecting. Didn't know about daylight saving time moving the hours, so I was a bit surprised. So I'm hoping you can hear me. Can you hear me, Kevin? Clues? I know, I knew you did daylight saving, but I didn't know you did it at a different time. There we go. Cultural adoption of friends. We should know these things, shouldn't we? I know that Canadians can spell, and I know that you now have different times to me. So there we go. Can everyone hear me? Am I here? Give me clues. There's a big delay, I think. Oh, hi Kelly. Hi Timothy. Hi Karen. Hi Joanne. Hi Kevin. Hi Betty. Excellent. I'm good. I'm just going to amble for a little bit in case people want to join us. I don't know whether they will or not, or whether they too will be. Hello Tony. They too will be surprised that I'm an hour early. Anyway, today I'm going to be doing Polychromos, no surprises, and using Kevin resolutions. Yeah, I don't know why we can't have daylight saving on the same day. That would seem to make such sense, but no, time zones are confusing. So yeah, this is Kevin resolutions. I've removed all the resolutions part of him and just used him because he's got a natty outfit on, and I thought it would be fun to colour. They don't move. For those that don't move their clocks ahead, oh yeah, till the 28th. It's miles away. I was yeah, I'm genuinely confused by time. Right, I've just been passed a coffee because that was an important part of the process. So I'm going to be doing textures today, and Kevin Resolutions is just covered in things to give textures. So this is the card that I made with him. So first of all, I printed him out as a blank, then I coloured him in pencils, and then I got a bit distracted and gave him a background as well, because why not? If you can add something, add it. Hi Dana. And then I gave him a new quote because I didn't want to use the resolutions quote, just wrong time of year issues. And then, because I've got some absolutely gorgeous now products to use, I used Autumn Life 6x6 paper set for my little flags, the little circles, and the enamel dots are from the Valentines set. Absolutely love them. I use tons of enamel dots. I'm a complete convert. Though I couldn't resist a tiny little bit of bling on his bow tie, because all cards deserve glitter, and that's a true fact. Okay, so let me start from the beginning. Shout if I'm going too fast, talking too fast, which I probably am, sounding too English and you can't understand what I'm saying, also a problem. So in the description of the video I've put this information. Also on my blog is the information written out if you want to copy and paste it, etc. We're actually not using many colours today, mainly some browns, some blues and some greys. So not an exciting colour spectrum, however quite suitable for a boy card and boy colouring, if we're allowed to have boy cards and boy colouring anymore. But do you know what I mean? Brown and blue is a nice, slightly 1980s combination, perhaps 90s, I don't know, but I quite like brown and blue for boys. So what I've done to start with is let me get everything so you can see it. As normal, I print out a version of Kevin with solid black lines, then I print out a version of Kevin with pale black lines, not pale black lines, that's ridiculous, grey lines, so I can do kind of no line colouring, but obviously you lose your lines as you're colouring, so you have the other one as a reference to where things were meant to be before you messed with them. So I gave Kevin a face, because while I was doing practicing it was a little bit sad that Kevin's face never got coloured, so I gave him a face. I've used the same colour scheme as I used for my last live for Rosa Parks, so you can see it's a bit different from my example where I used a red, actually it was super red in this light, but I used a redder hue and in this one I used a golden hue. So he's Rosa Parks colour scheme. He's a slightly redder, warmer colour scheme. He actually looks quite brown in real life, but you'll just have to trust me on that one. Looks a little bit flushed. Flushed, Kevin. Is there a digi-stamp called that already? I think there probably should be. So I've got options. I can do knitting on his hat. I can do a plaid shirt or a check shirt, depending on what you call them. And I can do jeans. Is there any you'd like me to start on, so we definitely get that one done and included before I run out of energy? You're going to have to let me know. I'm just going to have a little sip while I wait for you to catch up with the question, and please let me know what you'd like me to definitely cover in this session. Hello everybody, hello new joiners. I hope the sound of me slurping isn't too hideous. Jeans. Jeans are easy. Jeans is like 3 colours. I love doing jeans. Anyone else have a option? I don't mind, you can boss me about. Oh, more takers for jeans. Okie dokie. So, we're going to do jeans. So, let me see if I can get it to focus. I'm going to try and zoom in on jeans. Doesn't look that good zoomed in. Might zoom out again. There we go, a bit better. Yeah, I think that's alright. So, we're going to do jeans. I am going to colour the jeans just normally, like they were completely bog standard jeans, and then we're going to pop in our ripped jean effect on his knees. But obviously you can do ripped jean effect whatever you want on whatever bit you want. You know, ripped jeans can be quite ripped these days, so jeans is quite minimal on his knees. But we'll just do knees for this one so you can show you the theory of how you do it. So as normal, we have got a white pencil, and we're going to do the white base layer on his jeans. Did you see any of that? I can't ever tell when I'm zoomed in what you can and can't see. There we go. So I'm going to start by doing the white layer, and I'm going to do the shirt next. I'm taking the instructions, okay? I'm going to do the white layer on his jeans, and the white layer with Polychromos is pretty much a mixing layer. You're just making an oily base for you to mix your other colours on. So you're using gentle pressure all over, so it's not streaky. It makes a more solid texture. I still could do with some more colouring words to use. Okay, so I'm going to do the white on the jeans all over. Not very excitingly. I know what I could ask. When I did it, I thought, is this bit in the top pocket at top of a mobile phone? There's my question to artist or artist's muse, what the answer may be. I'm going to do it like it's a mobile phone in his pocket, because that seems slightly appropriate for all teenage boys that I know. Okay, so white all over. It's not tidy, it's just white layer all over, trying not to be streaky. We don't want to be streaky. And then we are going for pale blue, and in the 24 box of Polychromos, which I'm hoping you'll at least have the 24 box, so we should use those. The light blue is called 120 ultramarine. However, I can't find my 120 ultramarine, so I am going to use sky blue, which is incredibly similar. But just in case anyone was a pedant and noticed I'm using the wrong pencil, let me move my light round a little bit. No, still shady. This way better? Yes, this way better. So I'm now going to use light blue as my first layer of shade. So we're going to do a little bit on the edge, because your brain draws a tiny edge around everything. So we're going to do a little blue edge. Then on this side of the jean is going to be our shade area. So my light, as normal, is coming from here. And I'm lazy, I always keep it in the same place so I can, I don't get confused, because I confuse easily. Okay, so I'm very excited that you're getting Polychromos. I expect to have lots of questions. So we're going to do the shady side of the jeans in light blue. And on the other leg, same again, when we did a little blue edge. And then shady side of the jeans in pale blue. I'm being quite scribbly, but that's okay, we're going to blend this. Right, okay, and I'm not doing quite so much colouring on his roll-ups. What do you call them? Turn-ups? Haven't they got a trendy name as well? I can't remember. I'm just going to do a tiny bit of blue, because normally the inside lining of jeans is white or much paler than the outside of jeans. Not that I wear jeans very regularly, but I do remember what they look like. Also, I'm going to give him a, how can I describe it? A bit of an area in this area that looks like he's got a zip in his jeans. Gosh, sometimes you have to be so careful how you describe things. And then also there'd be a little bit of shadow where his shirt came out a bit out the top of his jeans. Cuffs. Thank you, Karen. That is the word I want. I could do with someone to prompt me with appropriate words through my entire video if you need a job. Okay, next I'm going in with one. Oh no, did I say it was 140 light ultramarine, or did I say it was 120? So 140 is the light blue one and 120 is the slightly darker one, and this actually is 120. I do have it, it's ultramarine. So I'm going to go in and now do an even darker shade of the shadow with this one. I'm going to go in, I'm going to be putting in the darkest area. So that's going to be the right hand side of that leg, the right hand side of this leg. Can you see alright, or is the light shining in the wrong way? Do pop me a message if you can't see very well. And then you get sort of a bit of shade coming off this leg onto this leg near the top on the inside of the thigh. And I think when next time you see someone wearing jeans, and if it's appropriate to give them a good look over, have a look at how the shading is on jeans. Actually, it's quite interesting to see, to actually have a proper look at clothes and work it out. I've just gone over the phone. I'm also going to do, because the phone is going to be a rectangle in his pocket, I'm going to do a little bit of a square impression on his pocket where his phone would stick out, and there'd also be some slightly darker bits going into the cuffs at the bottom. So that would be your basis for jeans. Now I'm going to move the light a little bit in the hope that you can pick up the colours better. I'm going to move him round. That would seem a bit better maybe. Right, next thing is to blend all of those blues together to form our base layer for our jeans. So this is going to be the basic base layer. That's where I keep my phone. Yeah, no, that's good. It's okay to keep it to your phone, but I wondered if, you know how like Levi's and things have tags sometimes? I wondered if it was a tag rather than a phone and I was colouring it wrong. So okay, I'm going to blend my blues together now with the white, and generally I blend all my colours together with white unless making them paler will ruin the effect. So jeans which have quite a lot of white thread in them, it's fine to mix with white. So I'm going to do the cuffs, and I'm going to go side to side, actually not at the same angle that I coloured the first lot because I just want it to blend. So if you colour more horizontally, swap till vertically when you blend, or do what you want, get it blended. And I would, if I wasn't doing any texture on the jeans, I would perhaps do this a couple more times layers wise, and I think it's a good jean colour. Unless of course you're trendy and you require different washes of jeans, and you require probably not stonewash denim, or is that cool again? The 80s is back, isn't it? I can never tell. So that is, I think, quite a good base layer for jeans already, even though I have to say so myself. So next I am going to do a little bit more of the same, but I'm also going to now pop in a few creases in the jeans, and I'm pretty sure there are some areas where creases might be a bit implied anyway on the picture, but I'm going to add some. Make sure you can see. I'm going to add some here, as his pant leg is pushed into his cuff. So we're going to go for a couple of little darts in there. Same the other side, perhaps from a different angle. We're doing from a bit more higher up. And I say if you want to learn about how clothing falls, the best thing is to look at some clothing and keep looking and keep working it out, because actually it all falls in the same way once you've learnt what happens, how the shade falls. You can work it out for most clothings. So I'm going to go a little bit, I've lost a bit of darkness on this side, which I'm going to put back in with my 120, and this side too. I was going to say that these two blues these two blues that I'm pretending to have one of them are in the 24 box, and they're definitely the most useful set of blues. So I'm doing the bit again under his shade. As with all polychromos, I'm building layer upon layer, and it is a little bit long-winded, but it's just how pencils work. I don't think there's a way around it. Polychromos are easiest to blend out of all of them, all of the different types of pencils, though I am biased. I should say that, shouldn't I? I have in the list of all the pencils that I'm using today, I've done a bit of a convert to Prismas in case anybody's stuck and wants to use their Prismas and feels a little bit left out because they can't follow what we're doing, but you can. Prismas just blend slightly differently. Okay, so we've done all our darker blues again, we're in, and then I'm going to use a darker blue, but this is completely optional. This dark blue is not in the 24 set, but you could use black instead if you wanted, which is in the 24 set. It's 199. So this is dark indigo, which is 157, and I'm just going to use it for the darkest areas, so the shadows of the folds either side, the far side, which is going to be a darker shade because it's furthest from the light, inside the pocket, around the phone, in the zip department, and I'm going to use a little bit on the, can you still see the cuffs? I'm going to a little bit on the cuffs to give them a bit of shade in the right areas. And then I'm going to swap back to white and just now blend the highlighted areas of the jeans. So we're implying all our areas, what areas are lighter and darker. Okay, so as you can tell, I'm going for quite pale stonewash jeans, but obviously just add more colour if you want something darker. What are the deep dark blue jeans? Are they called indigo? Indigo jeans? They're nice. We could do black jeans using greys and blacks. So easily just do exactly the same thing. And now we're going to, I want to make that sort of stone washed dappled denim effect. This is not faultless, you have to have a couple of goes at it. It's quite random in nature to do. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my 120, that's right, ultramarine, and I'm giving it a good sharpen so it's got a really tight point on it. That's what I'm doing at the moment. Please imagine me sharpening, that's what the noise is, if you can hear it. Here is my very sharp now pencil. I've got, because I'm a miser, I'm putting them in pencil extenders at the moment to try and get the most use out of them that I can, because they're expensive, aren't they? We can't keep wasting ends. So you're going to do a crazy scribble pattern lightly. If you can think of a name for the technique better than crazy scribble pattern, then suggest away. And we're going to do a scribble and just all over. I know you're going, but why? Well, because what we're doing is now making very random darker sections. So I am going to avoid a little bit the highest highlight area, which is this area here, and not particularly go into that because I think the highlight would probably remove the being able to see the texture as well. I'm going all over, even the bit with the phone pocket. So we've started to get a bit of texture. You can do the same with your ultramarine to get a slightly deeper, darker, more obvious texture. I'm just going to do a bit on the darker side with the ultramarine, but also not necessary, or you could do it in black. And then if you don't like how it's coming out and you're not feeling it, you can then go in with your white and just merge it all a little bit. And I don't know why the merging with the white bit starts to make it look more like jean texture. I don't always understand what I do, but I just do it. There we go. So can you see it's starting to look a bit more dappled? I hope that shows up on the camera. Let me see if I can change angles where it might help. No. I think it's because his eyeballs are so dark, it's making everything else. Oh, there we go. That's a bit better. You see, just like it's just sort of random bits of dark colour. So I'm going to go in again with my 120. Just add a little bit more random lines, just squiggles. I'm sure actually if you did a particular type of squiggle or shape, you'd make a different type of jean finish. That's if you did. I don't know. I'm doing like little circles and the squiggles. And then I'm going over with my white. I'm just bleaching it out a little bit. Then I'm going to have a look at my last one and see if I did anything after that. I don't think I did. I need to put back in the telephone bulge for sure. I don't know. Looks a bit different on the last one, but I think I just did a different type of squiggle. So moving it around again, having a look at what I've done. Yeah, I think it's looking okay. I'm gonna just make it a little bit more random. I think my problem is when I colour for myself, I would take it ages to do this because it doesn't matter how long it takes. Nobody really knows, do they? But when I'm showing you, I don't want you to lose the will to live because it's taken me so long to do it. So I'm going to leave it at that point, and I'm going to put back in the phone bulge in case we want to colour that in later. Right, what we do next is, it's frozen for me at the moment, so I'm just going to have a little wait. What I do next is I'm going to take out his knees in a not very kind procedure involving an electric rubber or a razor, and I'm just going to erase his knees in 2 circles. Harsh, but had to be done. Now, if you look at ripped jeans, the threads look white so they sort of, when people have jeans and then the cuffs aren't finished properly and they have all those white bits of string hanging down at the bottom. Well, that's the kind of look that you get when you do ripped jeans as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to colour it in. We're going to colour our hole in white because we're going to have to put knee colour there anyway. And then we're going to, now I need to check you can see because obviously we're white on pale and it's not the best for filming. I'm going to make little, I wonder if I could zoom in on it. Bear with everybody. Oh, where's my floofer? And you see, I'm going to have to move my light again. What I need is a big angle poised lamp hanging above me like they do for surgery, for removing knees. So I'm going to use the threads up and down from the rip. So imagine that these are the bits of thread, and they're a bit chunky at the moment, but we'll work on that. I'm going to do that either side, so these are the bits of I suppose it's like the warp or the weft, isn't it? But I'm not sure of the technical nature of it. And then we're going to go in with our ultramarine, and you're going to actually colour the shadow that's underneath the bit of white that we've just put in. So you're sort of almost colouring negative space. So we're doing the shadow from that bit of thread, the shadow from that bit of thread. Can you see what I mean? It looks a bit like a weird star on close up. I'll go with that. So we're doing the shadows from the threads, and then just do a bit of pale blue around the edge of the circle so you can tell it's jean material around the edge still. You can go in with white pencil again, extra sharp white pencil, and get those white threads to look a bit more twizzly. Yeah, I was going to say Stephen would know, wouldn't he, which way round? I don't know. I'm sure it's... No, I can't remember. Bear with. I'm just going to resharpen my white pencil because it didn't enjoy it and it broke straight away. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit to my little white threads again, so they look like they're maybe a little bit more curved rather than starry, which is what I achieved last time. Gosh, I'm breaking a lot of leads today. And then I'm going to go in shadow style again. I'm going to use my dark indigo for this, but you could just use the ultramarine again, it wouldn't matter. And I'm just going to maybe do a little bit of a implied line near the side as well, just so it looks more thread-like. I think I'm going to try and hold it flat up for you, because I'm not sure how well it comes across. Right. Can you see? Now he looks like he's got white tights on underneath his jeans. It's a look. Maybe not a trendy look, but it's a look. Yeah? Could see? Excellent. Right, okay, here we go. So now we're just going to pop him in some knees. What colours have I got? I haven't got all my colours for skin. What I have got though is I've got a bit of 190. I just used that as my shadow brown. So you'd have shadow underneath the jean, so that bit would be in shadow, and then this bit would be in shadow because it's the other side of where the light hits. We'll do the same on the other side rather than being complicated. We'll give that a little blend with a skin colour, which I think is a 132. So it's going to have rather pale knees. I apologise to New Resolutions Kevin for that. So there we go. Popped him in some knees. Going to go back in with a 190 because I'm a pedant and require a perfectionist OCD person. Make him a bit browner. There we go. Knees. I would probably spend another 30 minutes messing around with that until I got threads that look like threads, jean texture. I would just keep going on and on. I've actually frozen again for me, so type something if you're not frozen. I shall carry on. I think time zones affected my PC as well as me. Right. Is everyone good with jeans? Shall I move on to shirts? Just fix these cuffs while I'm waiting for responses. See if everyone's good. Pop a few highlights on some of these creases while I'm waiting. Oh, hello Isabel. I'm going to go shirts. I'm still frozen, but I'm going to go shirts and hope you're not. Is that a good angle? I think it might be. Thank you, Rebecca. The 120, 140 white is just jeans. You hardly have to think at all. It's great, and I believe it's almost as good with Prismas because you use violet blue and blue violet lake together in the same way, and it's also brilliant for jeans. Okay, so for his shirt, we're making him have a white shirt. It's not exciting, but that's because we're going to put a pattern on afterwards. So I'm going to do my first layer of white all over the shirt, as I'm sure you're becoming very used to. It's the white layer. I'm avoiding his braces a little bit, and I'm avoiding his bow tie a little bit, doing the rest white. Say I don't do this bit any slower when I'm colouring for myself because you do get bored of doing a white layer all the time. And sometimes you do it and you think, looks quite good, perhaps I shouldn't have to colour it any more than that. And that's always very tempting. Okay, So white layer first, then we're going to go in with, okay, so I'm using for greys, the two in the box are, that's the 24 box which I'm referring to because I'm hoping that's what everyone has if they're polychromoing. Warm grey 2 and warm grey 5 are the two that are in the 24 box. So this is warm grey 5 and warm grey 3, I think, because I can't find my 2. But there's so little difference in the warm greys, it's not going to make any odds. However, you can use any dark and light grey pencil. I'm using Polychromo pencils. The ones that I'm using are in the description. They will be posted later. They will be, I've got some Prismacolor equivalents in the hope that that helps a little bit. So we're going to do light grey first. I'm going to do shade, is coming from the left hand side. We're going to start doing the shade in light grey. You can do dark shade and then blend it out with light. You can do light shade and add some dark, just whatever you prefer. So I'm going to do the right side of this arm would be slightly in shade. These bits going into his jeans might be a bit shaded. His braces would throw a bit of a cast of shade to that side of them. I'll do the other one before I forget. Then we've got the underneath of the bow tie would have a bit of shade. The right side of the bow tie. Perhaps the bit under his chin would be a bit darker. Oh look, I forgot to do a bit of skin there. And then the whole right side of his body would be in shade. So the whole of this side now we're going to do dark grey. The bit of this arm would be shaded by his body. And then the right side of this arm is probably going to be deepest shade because it's furthest away from the light. And that is basically shading with polychromos. You choose your light source and then you're going to make the side the shadier darker, and that is just the basics of it. And if you want to make your colouring better, choose a light source and work out how to do that type of shading, because it immediately makes everything 3D and actually requires no brain. Once you've got it, you can just do it and it looks fine. You don't have to think much, which is a joy. So I'm now going in with my warm grey 5, and I'm actually going to make the darker bits of the shade. So in this crease here, the little bit around the braces, this bit of around the bow tie would probably be a little bit darker. Definitely this side, and definitely this side of this arm would be darker. So it's all a little bit sketchy, but you can definitely, lots of people colour with pencils and leave that sketchy effect and that sketchy texture, and it is really nice, particularly if you're not using oil pencils and using wax pencils. You can get a really nice finish without this constant blending in between. But with oil pencils it really is about the blending in between, and I use my pencils to do the blending. So I don't use Gambasol, I don't use external types of blending things, I just use my pencils to blend. So apart from the pencils, I don't have a lot of kit. Well, I don't think I've got a lot of kit compared to other craft things. I haven't anyway. So now I'm going to blend with my white pencil. I'm completely frozen on my screen. It's very worrying. Will somebody leave me a comment to tell me if it's freezing for you too? That would be very kind of you. Okay, so now I'm going to blend all of that grey shade and white with my white pencil. So you can see that it just blends right away. Looks like I spent hours doing it, and as you saw, I did not. I'm going to blend all behind this. This. And now we have basic shade on the shirt. What we're doing is, it's hard to add the shade once we've added the pattern. So we're adding the shade now and getting it as good as we can, because it's really hard to do anything once the pattern's on. So you're making basically we're making a nice white shirt, and then we're going to mess it up with the pattern. Okay, going in, putting a bit more dark in the dark bits. Make it look a bit like the few creases going into the top of his jeans. I don't know about whether this bit might be a bit shady where he's got his button up covered up. We'll pop in a little bit. Definitely a bit more around the bow tie again. Do the shady side again. And we're going down there. I don't know if the sets of 24 pencils are still available on the website for sale. I know it was a short-term offer, so I don't know, maybe someone can let us know if they're still available. They were a really good price. They're not cheap, but bear with me. I'm just going to pause for a moment and see if I can get myself connected again to see what's happening. I'm wondering if you're colouring along with me. You might want to, I don't know whether to wait to see if you catch up or not. Everything's gone really weird. I'm on some massive lag. I'm not seeing any comments. Kevin, can you send me a message so I can see if people can see me and it's just me that is blind and can't see what's going on? That would be very kind of you. I'm going to blame time differences for all problems today and have a bit of coffee. Right. What we're going to do next is, oh, hi Lydia, thank you. Oh, they're no longer for sale. I'm sorry you missed out on that absolutely great bargain with the Polychromos. I do apologise. Let me just check if you... Oh yeah, I can be seen. I can be seen clearly. That's such a relief. You wonder whether you're just talking to yourself, which I think I probably do quite a lot. So I'm just going to finish off just a bit of blending on the shirt where I've made it all a bit scribbly. And it might look a little bit over shaded, but because we lose so much when we do the pattern. And here we go. So next thing we do is we're going to do plaid or checked, or whatever you call a plaid or checked shirt, because I know that different people call them different things. And I normally, when I see somebody on the telly or in real life wearing a particularly nice plaid shirt, I store it in my brain because I am that sad individual and think, I could do that on a picture. So I was actually watching a gardening programme and one of the gardeners was wearing the plaid that I used for original Kevin. But I'll show you what I normally do when working on a plaid pattern. Do you call it plaid? Oh yeah, tartan, that's a good word. Isn't tartan on kilts though? Anyway. Right, so what I'm going to do is do myself a swatch. I know, it's exciting. First of all, because you do everything white to start with, we're going to do a white undertone. So this is going to be what our shirt is like. Shirt. And now I'm going to choose my pattern. And I'm doing it like this so I can refer back to it when I get confused later on. Because actually when you're doing a garment, it gets a bit confusing about what would be where. And I'm going to use as my two colours ultramarine and raw umber. So that's the blue I use for the jeans, and I've actually, the raw umber is 180, and that's actually what I'm also using for his hat, so he's going to be very stylish and coordinated. Oh yeah, plaid or checkered. I've heard it being called plaid quite a lot, which I don't think it ever is, because I think it's not an English word, is it? It's a Gaelic or something, I think. Anyway, that's a bit weird. But anyway, so I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to do my vertical stripes. I'm going to do some thick 180 vertical stripes. And so this is me building my pattern. The more check shirts you look at, the more you realise that this is all it is. It's thick lines, straight lines and crossing over each other. But the effect is, when you're doing penciling, it looks like you've spent hours making marvellous textures, but actually all you've done is draw lines, which we like. So we're having thick lines going down, and then we're going to, in between every thick line, we're going to have a thin line. Right, there we go. That is our first colour downwards. So I'm going to do all of the colours downwards, then I'm going to swap to do all the colours across. So downwards we're going to have on the left and right of every one of these thick 180 lines, we're going to have a thin 120 line. You can use any colour, you can use any combination or pattern. The more repeated it is, the more it looks like real clothes. Okay, so that's all our... I keep thinking I'm getting vertical and horizontal mixed up. I apologise if I am. Right, I'm now going to turn my piece of paper over because it's easier to draw lines downwards than it is acrosswards, sideways. No, I can't. It's impossible with my camera set up. Gonna have to be like that. Right, okay, so the other way around, I'm going to do thicker blue lines across, colour them in. Sorry if spinning the paper around made you feel seasick. I'm not watching it because I know it'll make me feel seasick. And go across. So it's starting to look like material, I hope. You can use Gamsol with these pencils, however it didn't seem to do terribly much. I thought the actual Derwent blender pencil is more effective to do the same kind of thing, but it sort of finishes off that layer. You can't really alter anything after you've done it, but maybe Gamsol's a bit like that too. I have had to go with a couple of things like Zest It and stuff like that, but with polys it's just easy to blend using a white pencil. I go for easy, but I'm sure there are lots of technical things why using them would be better than just pencil, but easy is what I'm going for. So I've done blue lines across. Now I'm going to go back to 180 lines across and do a pair of thin lines together. Okay, so this is our reference. We're going to have to do this all over the shirt, and you can see that that's looking pretty complicated, but it's in fact blue and brown lines. See? Sounds easy. It's like magic. Next thing I normally do with it is I get myself a white pencil that's not completely blunt. You'll have to wait for me to have it. Oh, I've got one here. I have a little sharpen, but I'm alright, I've got one. And when you drag a white pencil to make white lines, you make the fabric look more like fabric. So you're actually pulling the colour down as you go with your pencil, or pulling the colour across. Like if you were glazing a cake and you wanted to do one of those patterns on the top of the cake. So you go around in circles and then you use a stick and you pull the... what's that called? It's exactly like that anyway. So I'm going to use my white pencil, and I'm going to choose now where my white would be, and I think I'm going to have it left and right of this, of the brown, thin brown, horizontal, no vertical line. So now I'm going to pull with my white. I'm going to have to steady my thing through, and I'm going to do, there would be one there, and there would be one there, and one there, and then I'm going to do it the other way, and I'm going to do it either side of the thick blue line, pull it through. Now when we're working on a smaller scale, this will be more impactful, but that's basically what I'm going to do. What did you say it was called? Oh, buffalo plaid. So they've all got names then, I presume. What do you mean accent? I don't have an accent. Oh yeah, I'm very Frozen Betty constantly. I actually went out and went back in again, and it started to work again, if that helps anyone else. So this is my swatch. This is what I'm going to be working for on my shirt. Unless it proves too complicated, I reserve the right to completely change my idea and make it less complicated. So back to his shirt. I can't remember how zoomed in or zoomed out I am. I'll go for a bit more zoomed in. Tell me if that's not working for you though. It looks quite sharp. So the first thing I did was my thick brown line, so now I'm going to apply that to the shirt. So we're going to go for thick brown line from the bow tie down. We're going to imagine it's a beautifully made garment and completely symmetrical and even. Thick brown line down. And we probably get to see it here, maybe a little bit of an angle because the shirt's billowing out. Remember, you need to start to look at fabrics to work out how they hang, and then you can steal that information for your own colouring. And then we're going to do a thick line this side, also probably a little bit billowy out. Not implying Kevin would have billowy out clothes. And then we're going to do his arm. So his arms, normally the seam for arms is at the top in a curve here on just normal men's shirts. I'm not saying anything about his belly. It isn't. It's the billowing fabric of his very skinny belly underneath. So then we're going to do a thicker brown line up the sleeve. We don't have to relate to the rest of the pattern. We can just treat the arm now as a bit different. It's different, but still the same pattern, slightly different angle. So we're doing our thick brown down. Ooh, that sounds wrong. I'm not saying that again. And then what was our next brown? We had a thin brown, didn't we? So I'm referring back to my little swatch that I made, and I've got a little brown going down in between the big browns. I think this is probably a Seuss poem. Right, okay, so there would be one here, maybe a little bit billowy there, might see one there, a little bit there, here one, and then probably let's do it down the sides of the central. I suppose the thing is, you could even add buttons if you're being cheeky and wanted to add some interest. Now I'm doing his collar. I'm doing my thick brown, my thin brown, my thin brown, my thick brown on his collar. There we go, so he's got some collar and pattern too. And then we did blue lines either side of the thick lines going down. Is this Mensa? Does it sound Mensa? I hope it doesn't. I literally am now just following my pattern and not thinking, so it doesn't get too complicated. I'm just going to have to sharpen my blue a bit because it's gone a bit flat. I think everybody wishes they had a skinny belly. I certainly do. Next is, so blue lines downwards, so thin blue lines down the sides of the thick brown lines. So here's a thick brown line. I'm going down either side. Here's one. I'm going down this side because you can't see the one the other side. I'm going down here, down here, going down here, down here. As you can see, I may not be doing it all correctly, but as long as the overall effect is there, it works. You'll be pleased to hear. So is that everything I did apart from white down? I think it was. I'm going to leave my whites down and across till the end. So now we're going to go across the body and move round, except can I work out how to do that so you can still see? I don't know about you, but I move around what I'm colouring all the time, so it's the right way round for my ease of colouring, and that's really hard when you're on a video. So our horizontal lines were thick blues across, so we're going to start with blue and go across. Let's do him from one side of the belly to the other. Thick blue. A little bit of curve for Buddha belly type shape. Obviously not relating to actual Kevin. Little thick blue line. So if you think the line would be dead straight, do it dead straight. Or if you think it would be slightly more body shape, give it a little bit of a curve to it. So these are our horizontal blues. Oh, did you sort it out, Betty? I don't know, mine kept freezing. And then we're going to do our horizontal blues on our sleeves. So now they don't have to match these up. In fact, it looks better if they don't, because it differentiates it being an arm, not a strange wide body. You can also alter the pattern a bit on the cuffs, but I shan't on this one. How many? We've got 4 up that arm. Let's try and get 4 up this arm as well. And then let's put a little bit of blue on the collar, though I really think we can perhaps abandon the collar as looking enough like it fits. And then, what did we do? Oh, we did double brown in between. Why did I make it so complicated? Bear with, I've got to do sharpening. You can, I know how to do this because my friend Helen went on a Copics course and did fabric patterns, so you can see I did a dreadful thief. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And she did this with Copics. So obviously just use thick lines and thin lines with your Copics, and you can do check with Copics as well. I was like, ooh, I could do that with pencils. Okay, so I'm back with my brown, and I'm going to do two lines in between my blues. So 2, 2, 2. So you could just do a standard check shirt in 2 colours, or red and black if you're Canadian, and that would work great. You don't have to be complicated. However, if you tackle something a bit more complicated when you're colouring, people are impressed, even though it's just lines in order. Right, we're almost done. Have I missed anywhere? What does that look like? I think it's looking okay. I think it looks like I need to blend my thicker lines a bit because they look a bit scribbly, but I don't really want to make them darker. So I'm going to go in with a white and sort of blend out some of my thicker, scribblier lines. But Kevin will have check shirts, won't he? Isn't it a compulsory thing? Okay, so I'm going to blend out my blues a bit. So they're a bit more less scribbly, a bit paler as well, which I think helps. And then go, and then the other thing that I think needed doing was the browns going the other way. So bear with me while I turn you around. Looks quite green on camera. I hope it's not so green on the playback. So I'm going to do these thick browns a bit. They've I don't know. See what it looks like in a minute. And then I'm going to, can you remember I did white lines down in between to drag the colours? So we're going to do a bit of that now. So we're going to drag with our whites, which went either side of our browns. I just don't have room for that anymore. Down, down. If you have a bigger area to colour, the dragging thing works a bit better. However, I don't know, it just does something to the look of the pattern that suddenly makes it work. It's that pencil magic thing that I can never describe properly or have the words for. Yeah, you can get back at these videos really easily. I didn't realise, I thought lives were just live, but you can go back afterwards and watch them. And StampAnniething puts all of theirs on the YouTube channel as well, so literally could not be more convenient. But we try and put all the information with it. Here you go. Yeah, Kevin explained it better. Okay, so I'm going to do my horizontal drag lines now this way. What did we have? We had them either side of the blues. Got a lot of breaking nibs today. The actually Polychromos break least apparently of all the pencil types. And as long as when you get them, if you get them by post, people pack them properly. I don't normally get that much breakage. I just had one batch of whites that were a little bit, I don't know, just means you have to sharpen more. Okay, it's no bad thing. Okay, so his shirt is almost done as far as I'm concerned. You can see now that I've got, it's putting shade in now is going to be a nightmare, but there was enough left over from before for it to still look relatively shaded. Just have a look at what he looks like. I quite like it. I don't know whether I might just blend this area out a bit because it's looking a little bit garish compared to the rest. And there's a bit here. I kind of want to give him buttons. Would that be alright? Would that be allowed? I'm going to do it. No one can stop me because actually I've done this 2 minutes ago given the lag. I'm going to pop in some buttons. When you do buttons, you don't actually have to draw the circle. You just have to draw the shadow that the button leaves for it to look like a button. Which is useful for this scale. If you do bigger, you can draw your button, but if you're doing little, just draw the shade on the right hand side of the button that the button makes. There we go. Button, 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 button. Pop them in. I think we got away with that. Nobody noticed. Pop them in. Okay, they're too dark. Bit of white over the top. Go, it's got buttons in. Okay. That is a plaid shirt. Are we ready to move on to a knitted hat? Do you want a knitted hat? Would you like me to carry on with the plaid shirt and make it look better? Not plaid. I want to make those let me just please vote for me. Am I moving on to the hat? That's what I need to I need to be sanctioned if I can move on. I feel like I would probably in real life mess with this for quite a long time until it was absolutely perfect, but you can see it is absolutely dead easy to do. I'm going to do hat. Are you ready? So I'm going to zoom out a little bit because I don't need to be zoomed in so much for knitting texture. Have you watched me do knitting texture before? I have done it before on a live, so I hope it's not boring or teaching anyone to suck eggs. White layer first. Not exciting, but necessary. Do white layer all under. It actually makes your colours pop, and if you see other people colouring on craft and all their colours appear a little bit subdued or browny hued, it's usually because they don't do a white layer underneath their colouring, and it's an effect in its own right and it looks gorgeous. However, if mine looks different, it's because it's got a white layer underneath it all, and I do a white layer even if I'm using white paper, because it's just a layer to blend on, even though you kind of lose track where you are if you're using white paper. Next we're going to do, so we've done our white layer, and then for my hat I'm going to use walnut brown as my dark brown and raw umber as my light brown. They are chocolate in Prismas and light umber, so pretty similar. And first of all I'm going to do exactly like I did with the white shirt. I'm going to do my shade. So let me find what I've done with my, there we go, found my 177. My 177 has the Derwent extender on it. Now Anna was having a bit of a look to see what extenders she could find, and I don't know if there's been any progress on that, but the Derwent black metal one is the best by far of all the ones I've got. And I have also got the really cheap ones that come from abroad, which are right, but your pencil gets stuck in and then you can't get it out, and you can't even prise it out. You could only cut it out, and I'm not doing that to pencils, it's cruel. So I'm going to go back to my hat with my extender on, and I'm going to do dark shade in all the dark shade places. So we're thinking knitted hats. Knitting is a series of curves, furrows, curve, furrow, all the way across. So this side of every curved area will be slightly shady. Have I explained that well enough? I'm not sure. So it's not flat, it's a hat. It has a texture to it, which means that there's a little bit of shade in the furrows between the layers of knitting, which I'm going to stick to that explanation. I'll have to do. So you get one of those sort of shades all the way around the hat, and actually we've got the lines already drawn in for us, so we barely have to think. Also, because we've got light coming in from the left, the whole right hand side of the hat will be more in shade than this side, so we're actually going to extend our brown shading a little bit more on this side till it's almost completely covered the ridge on this far side. Then dome of the hat is got to imagine light sitting this side, so this side's going to be really bright and this side's going to be darker, so we're going to do about there for the light area shade, and then a bit darker over here for the darkest area of shade. I've got a bit of a scribble over. For my scribble over I'm going to use my electric. I think Anne's going to work on finding some of these as well. I hope you got the sound effect as well, or the buzz effect for excitement. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Do you buy the white pencil separately? Yes, I bought myself a set of 24, which you can do everything with, though I suggest you buy beige red as well, so that's 25 pencils. And then I'm in the UK, so it's not very helpful for everybody, but you can order Polychromos individually, which you can't do with lots of other pencils, which is why I haven't really changed pencils. And I would say for every replacement of a colour, I order my 5 colours I've run out of, I will order 10 whites. So I use white at an incredible speed. So I'm saying, if you're going to buy yourself the set, buy yourself a beige red, and then buy yourself 10 whites for blending. But yeah, I get through a lot of white. I hope that answered the question and gave me a chance to have a bit of coffee. Okay, so I've done my basic shade. I'm now going to blend my basic shade using my 180 raw umber. So this is going to be the main real colour of the hat. So I'm going to put in my line, because your brain sees a bit of a line around things. I should find out what that's officially called as well when your brain adds lines. And then this side, and then these. So I'm blending in the bits of darker brown that I've just done, the 177. Yeah, beige red is one of the new names for all the tones that were described as skin tones, so it's more inclusive. So mine is not called beige red, it's called skin something, but now they're called beige red. They altered three or four pencils, I think, because people weren't that happy with the names, so I quite often call it the wrong thing, and I do apologise for that. But yeah, I think it's good. Let's be more inclusive. Right, here we go. So we're going to blend in all that dark colour, and then the rest of the hat is white, so we're going to go really softly with our 180 and extend the colour over to now our paler sides. So this is just much softer pressure, colouring in the coloury bits. That's good use of language there for you. I'm going to cross, because it's not going to be white even if it's pale. Across we go. And then it's quite hard to do a curve the other way around. You have to feel a bit seasick while I move you around. So I'm going to go pale, just a pale soft colouring on there. So we go. So now he's actually got his beige hat, and we're going to blend all of that with the white. But you could blend it with the brown, you could blend it with whatever you wanted. Actually, there's quite a nice paler orangey brown that it would be quite nice to blend it with as well. Slightly different effect. But I'm just going to use my white for a bit of blending. So I'm trying to think what I do when I blend, and I'm not using the sharpest of white pencils because it's easier to blend on a slightly flatter pencil. So you know, when the nib gets worn down a bit, it's actually easier to blend with it then. And I'm scribbling. I'm quite hard pressure scribbling to blend it all. And because you're doing a pattern over the top, you don't have to have quite such a perfect result afterwards, because you're going to cover it up quite a lot. But you want, you know, decent. You want the lighting and the shade and everything to be right, to save you time and effort afterwards. Okay, so that's my first layer done. Let me just refer and make sure I haven't missed anything out to do. Oh yeah, next layer. So I'm going to go back. So you're going to be bored by the constantly returning to what I've just done. However, that's what you're doing. You are building one layer, blending it, building the layer again, blending it. So when you blend with white, you lose the pigment, but you in fact eventually you'll end up with a smooth base for your next layers of colour. And that's what I think might be a bit different about polys, is a very layered approach to everything. In fact, it almost doesn't matter how liney and coloury you start, as long as you eventually build the layers that you want. So I'm going to go in with my 177 walnut and do my shade areas again a little bit more smoothly, so I'm not making such a liney mess all the time. There's a point before you apply the pattern that it would be perfectly acceptable to leave your hat just coloured like that. It looks like it's knitting anyway. It's up to you how full on you want to go with patterns. You can just shade things and not bother at all, and that is perfectly fine. I quite like the intense, tortuous nature of a complicated pattern, as you see with his plaid shirt. So I'm just going to put in an edge around the top of his hat, move to the middle a bit, blend in that brown a little bit because it's a bit of a harsh line. Then I'm going to go back with my 180 and pop in my shade layer, blending the 177 a little bit again. I'm thinking I'm going much faster than normal. To be honest, I do the first few layers pretty quickly and then slow down when I start to do blends. So for skin, where actually the blend really matters, you're not going to be putting patterns over the top unless you do freckles. I do lots of layers and it takes me ages. It's not fast, but it's quite therapeutic. Okay, so we're getting there. We're pretty blended now. You know what I was saying about curves and furrows and roundness? I would, if you see everything on this is very straight, so it's stylized and it looks nice. However, because they're curves, how can I explain this? Each one of these would actually be slightly arched, and there would be a pull down in between, so they'd actually have a slightly darker bit like that. Can you see what I'm doing? So they'd have like a little arrow in, and I only know this because I occasionally and randomly knit, not very well, and crochet. It would be the same. So they actually have a slight curve, and the effect of that is a little bit of an indent in between each layer. Hope that makes sense. I'm just making this darker again because it looks a bit light. So he's now got the little curves in his, can you see? I think it makes sense when you're colouring. If you put the minutes in, it goes, oh yeah, they would have that. Okay, so I need to just sharpen my 177 for the next bit. So let's have a look at it. I think it would probably be fine to add knitting pattern now, but it's not very smooth. Let me just do a quick smooth with a not very sharp white pencil, so we haven't got quite so many lines going on, because that will just make the next stage confusing, and we don't want that. So it's another time when you try and do your shading before you do the pattern, because it's quite hard to put the shading in afterwards. Just one of them things. So with my 177 walnut brown, I'm now going to draw in our knitting. So let me find original Kevin and bring him in. So what we're going to do is aim for this pattern all over his hat, and this is also very simply just lines, not complicated at all. Right, so here we go. On each of these we're going to treat this as I should learn what the knitting words are for it. But basically these would be a bit thick to be the knitting, and I suppose it could be very chunky wool, but we won't, we'll have normal wool. Here we go, do with Stephen to tell us what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go down in the middle of each of these lines, and I'm going to double up our layers, our rows. That's the word I want, rows. No, if it's downwards it's not rows, is it? Oh, I don't know. Where's a friend who knits when you need them? Okay, so we're going to do our downwards, and then from the, so basically we've divided each of these into a left side and a right side of the knitting columns, and you can see now how the highlight is working on the column on the left would be better lit than the inwards column on the right. I really do need to learn the words. So on the hat we got to have the same effect. So if you look at a knitted hat, the knitting gets smaller and smaller towards the centre where all the columns meet. So I'm going to put my little dot, this is going to be my centre, and then we've got here where the knitting it's so complicated, where the knitting is thicker, those lines would join up with the centre line, so our columns would get narrower and narrower until we got the centre of a hat, when the top would be sewn up. If you haven't got a woolly hat, a tea cosy, something like that, you can see how it works. So basically there's a star shape in the middle with all the columns lessening as they go up. What's the word for columns when it's knitting? It's not columns, is it? Somebody tell me in the comments, please. Okay, so I'm going to put my lines up. So I'm going to go from my little indents, and now I'm going to go up in a curved way up to the centre point from my little indents that I made. So you can see that they a baseball cap or something like that would be a good one to look at how it works out in the middle. So we're going to go down, we're going to go this one, and we're going to barely see that one. Okay, so now we've got our main ones, and then we're going to need to halve these because that's how the knitting pattern works. But you can see that they're a bit like an umbrella, and they spread out. There we go, we've got all our verticals in, and I'm going to have a little bit, yeah, but aren't rows across? What, aren't rows down? Sorry Kelly, I'm asking you questions. You didn't know you're going to have to be this involved, I'm sure. Is it rows down as well as rows across? I really should know, but I do not. Okay, I'm just sharpening my 177, which is I actually need some more of. I'm having to use little stumps because I think I've run out. Just popping it in. Right, so here we go. So the next stage is the layers, and I'm going to concentrate here on the brim of the hat when I'm showing you, because it gets more complicated into the top of the hat. So we're going to start down the bottom. So the left hand side of each row, column, is going to be diagonal lines pointing downwards. So here we go. So you're basically going to make that horizontal line that way, and then you're going to meet them up the other side and do it that way. And you're going to do that on every one. So I'm going to go across now and do that on every one. You have to amuse yourselves while I'm doing that, because it's not very exciting to do, but it needs to be done. So I'm matching them up so so it has the look of being realistic knitting, whereas, you know, we're only trying to fool people into thinking it's got texture, aren't we? So you don't want people to criticise your hat knitting pattern, but this is mainly what they look like. I've seen some people do some sort of Aran techniques where you do like a raised layer and a cable knit layer and stuff, but I don't know if I've got enough life for that at the moment. I like it though, it might happen yet. So here we go, doing that side. So that is now, we've got basic knitting. And the next stage I would do after that is also with my 177. I'm going to put an oval in every one of those horizontal pieces. Easier to show you than explain. So I'm going to do this quickly. It's easy actually. You can do, it is columns. Thank you, Kelly, thank you. It's quite scribbly how I do it. You don't have to be 100% accurate, but if you're that kind of person, feel free to take much longer and do it accurately, because I'm sure it would look very nice. But you're going to oval in every one of these places, and we're using the same colour so it blends in. And when you've got one that's not quite you just do the best oval that you can in that spot, in the slightly special needs bit. Do a special needs oval. There we go. Bit round again, bit round again, and then the little one, and then ovals. Here we go, here we go, and then again. You can see this could easily be a plait, it could easily be ears of corn. Same technique, different colours. Little round ones, doesn't matter that we've almost lost our little special ones up there. Little special ones down here. More ovals. Ooh, that one's got a bit on the wonk. Oval, oval. Okay, and I'm just going to do these ones I missed on the left hand side. A little special one. Little special, round, round. Can you still see? I'm a bit off to the side. This side. There we go. Knitting pattern. It's a little bit, the white areas I've left are a little bit bright, so I'm going to tone that down a little bit with a little bit of 180, and I'm not going to worry about my brown lines are still going to be there. I don't have to worry. I'm just going to go over it a little bit. You don't really, as long as you're gentle, you're not going to blend anything, you're not going to change anything. Normally I don't have as much white left to this, and I have to add a bit of white, and for that I just go in with the white at this stage. Pick out a few of these that you think would be naturally highlighted if the light came in from the left, and then just add a bit of white to them. The other advantage is it makes your ovals look a bit neater. If you wanted neater ovals, which I'm sure some people would. Okay, so that's basically knitting technique, and I would now do that onto the top of his hat. So I'm going to quite quickly do that. Do shout at me if you want me to do it slower, but actually it's just do your best to do the same pattern but in a much more limited space. It gets a bit more complicated, that's all. Don't fret, just do your best. So here we go. So we're doing that way lines up to there, then with this one we're doing this way lines. You can see how very confusing it becomes, so just go with the same technique. Don't think you can do it. Go up, so we're still keeping with the same as we did before, but it's become significantly more tricky to fit in, but we're going to do it. It's not going to defeat us. Do you also give yourself a team talk while you're colouring, or a jaunty song as Kevin does, which I rather liked, and I'm going to learn myself some good colouring tunes to hum while I'm colouring. Okay, so we're good. I'm now going to do the ovals again, at which point the fact where we've made mistakes and things like don't look quite right are going to look fine again. So here we go, ovals in this area. You can, if you do the curves a little bit out, so it now looks a bit bobbly, it makes it look more like real knitting. We do this one there, then this one, then we went a bit wrong with that one. I think I don't know, you could just cheat a bit and just do the lines for the top bit, I suppose. You don't have to do all the circles, but I don't know, it looks alright when it's done. I'm trying to think what the type of pastry is that has a pattern on a bit like this. It'll come to me like a cream slice or something like that. Okay, so I really enjoyed when I colour and nobody's here, I obviously quite often have a doopy doo song while I'm colouring. I'm not brave enough to share that with everybody yet, so I'm just going to floof over and get rid of my bits of dark. And then I've got I'm going to go in at this stage with dark sepia. It's not in your 24 box, but you could use black instead, because sometimes it's nice to alter the shading of the ovals that you've already done. So the ovals on this side would be lighter than the ovals on that side because that side's in shade. So 177 is the darkest brown that you get in the 24, so I'm just going to nip in, and because I know lots of people have got more than the 24 box, although we can't say that out loud, but I'm sure they have. And then I would put in the ones on this side that would be darker in a slightly darker colour. And if you have the time and the patience, you can also do the lines in this section in a lighter colour, because obviously they would be lighter. And the only time when it's actually interesting / important to do is when you're doing a striped garment and you're doing striped knitting, which I have to tell you is quite complicated and very easy to mess up. But you do your knitting lines and you change colour with the stripes. So yeah, you'd use many stripes over the same knitted garment. We have electric razors and floofers on order. There we go. And I'm hoping they'll be called floofers when they're in the shop. Okay, so next thing is, as you can see with previous Kevin, I left enough room when I printed him out so we could put on a pom-pom, because all hats deserve pom-poms. So I'm going to whack on another quick pom-pom. Or you can see much tidier knitting because I was, OCD and did it slowly. Here we go. Top of Kevin's hat, pom-pom. Ready for a pom-pom? I'm going to need to sharpen a white, bear with. So, anything that's furry or hairy requires lots of sharpening pencils. I don't know whether have we got sharpeners on order of any kind. Oh yeah, I use my electric rubber for everything. It's brilliant. Electric eraser, sorry. It's really good. I also use my pencil eraser as well. Should say that. And that's really good if you make a mess with a colour or something on what you're doing and you just want to take out the mess, not the colour underneath. They are brilliant for it. I think you need to write the pom-poms. I could write a pom-pom song because I like adding pom-poms to things. Are you ready? So it's going to be, it's fur technique in miniature format. We're going to make him into pom-pom. I'm actually going to turn him on his head and work on him upside down. Is that alright? Poor Kevin. He's having a very rough day. He's had his knees operated on. He's wearing a very odd check shirt with massive buttons, and now he's going to have a pom-pom upside down. So we're going to go out from our middle of a pom-pom. Our middle of a pom-pom is going to be here. So if you look at a pom-pom, it's not actually up in the air. It's not a nice round circle. It's a bit flat. And part of the pom-pom would actually be covering this part of his hat. So we're going to start coming outwards in a big star pattern. And our pencil has to be sharp. So where we come off the page, it leaves sharp ends. If your pencil is not sharp, all of these look like little thick lines. If you want it to look like hair, they've got to have thin ends. Do you know that's actually how you can tell if fur is real or not? Because synthetic fur doesn't have sharp ends on every piece of hair, but a real fur does. apparently that's true. Okay, so I've done my first white layer of my pom-pom. Obviously, if this was a Christmas card, we could just leave it there because that would look awesome. Now I'm going to have to sharpen my 180, so I'm using the same colours that I used in the hat to give him a very trendy pom-pom. Yeah, my singing's much worse than yours, Kevin. It really would put people off. They would not stay for a life. Okay, so now I'm going to do, my next layer is going to be 180. So the same again. I'm just going to go around and, you know, super sharp pencil. And as soon as it stops being sharp and you have to stop and do it. Unfortunately, sharpening with polychromos is a bit of an unhappy process because electric sharpeners really don't last very long with polychromos at all. You break them so quickly because it's the oil issue. I have been through a lot of electric sharpeners. I mean, a lot. I have a little graveyard area. I may do a post one day about the graveyard. And now I'm just using one of these. So, okay. I'm going now in with my 177, which was my darker colour that I used before. I need to floof it. And now I'm starting to think about that my light is now coming from this side because poor Kevin's upside down. So I'm going to have more dark hairs on the shade side than the light side. So you'd have a few, I'm putting in a few, but you'd have more this way. And you might find it easier to turn your paper as you go, so you pull your strokes down as you go round. Oh, hi Anne. Everyone stop talking about Anne, she's here now. We're going to go with a white, super sharp white again. So we've done our white, our 180, our 177. We've made an incredible firework pattern. We're now going to go back in with our white because pom-poms, as it says in the famous pom-pom song, have lots of layers. So we're going to do another white layer, concentrating more. I'm so breaking my legs today. Concentrating more on our light side. Ooh, not on our dark side. We've got a bit of Star Wars. And then we're going to do the white bits of fur that would come over the top of the hat. Now, if you were a skilled human, you might have left this top bit a bit pale to make this job easier, but unfortunately I'm not that skilled. So there we go. I've put in some white over the top of his hat, so it does kind of look a bit like it's on top of his hat. However, I'm going to make some magic with that sentence could go wrong, couldn't it? I'm going to make some magic with the dark brown and colour in the negative spaces, which is, I believe, what it's called. So I'm going to colour in the shadow underneath the white hairs to make the white hairs look like they're more there than they are at the moment. So you colour in up into the pom-pom. And by doing that, you make the negative space, the shadows that if there were hairs there, they would make without necessarily the hairs being there. That is my not very good explanation. Right, next I'm going to go back with the white and do those lines again. Here we go. Sharpening. Sorry, I should say that, shouldn't I? I'm having to pause for a brief sharpen. This is what the Copic people don't have to deal with, is this constant sharpening. Here we go. I'm going to do another quick layer of white on top. I'm breaking these leads like mad. And then where I made the hair on the thing, I'm going to try and go over those, not very well, but enough. So now definitely looks like it's coming over the top of the hat. I'm going to go in with 177 and do a bit more shade on one side, so it looks a bit more dimensional. And then usually with things that shape, the pom-pom shape, firework shape, that shape, is the bit in the middle is a bit more concentrated and dark, so that gives you an excuse to go smack in the middle and do like a little dark star. Ooh, we're going very, very Star Wars today. Hold on, I'm going to do, I had to sharpen, sorry, that's my mother. I'm going to do, here's our middle, and we're going to do a little dark star in the middle to make the middle a bit darker. I think that's a bit too dark, so I'm going to sharpen my white again. See, fur colouring is just all about sharpening constantly. And I'm going to just line that Can you see how often my leads are breaking? This set of whites is the funny batch that I had that weren't packaged very well. There we go. So yeah, pom-pom. What do we think? So I'm going to turn him round, poor old Kevin. All the blood's run to his head. Here he is. I think we're definitely getting there. What do you think? Is there anything you'd like to ask me, or want me to do, or improve upon? Or I wish I'd coloured in his neck. Yeah, I'm just going to hang out for 2 seconds. Do you want me to discuss anything or tell you anything else? Are you good? Do you think that you could go away now and have a go at some of these things? Which is the idea, isn't it, really? Do you feel fortified by Polychromo knowledge? Because that's what we're aiming for. How would you colour the tie? I would colour it white. Obviously. And then what colour did I do on original Kevin? Oh, did I just give him a little brown tie? I just think I gave him a little brown tie and then put white spots on it. Bow ties is just dark on one side and then light on the other. So let's give him a blue tie because it's probably easier to see. So light coming from this side, that area would be light, that area would be dark. That area would be light, that area would be dark. That would be light, that would be dark. And gives you the dimensions super speedily. And then we'd use our 140 out of our 24 set. Ignore the fact that this isn't quite the same. And then I would blend. You can see you remove a lot of colour, and that's because the next layer you're going to put some of that colour back in. Usually on bow ties you get a couple of creases that run into the knot like that, and then where you get a crease you also get a highlight because it's raised and furrowed, a bit like a hat. Just having a quick sharpen. So in between the little creases, highlight, and then I'll put white spots on with the Posca pen as just an easy way to do things. I'm not going to demonstrate that though because I haven't got my Posca pen with me. You have to imagine me now dabbing on some Posca pen. No, hold on, I know where one is, bear with. I'm back. I knew I'd used it for his eyeballs. I'm just trying to get it to work. You hear hammering of me ruining my Posca pen. Thing is, you shake it loads and then it explodes on whatever you're colouring. Right, okay. Then I would add my little dots. And now he's got a spotty bow tie on. Oh, I tell you what I could do. Pop a little bit of shine on all of his buttons. Ta-da! Is that okay? Please watch it on replay. Please ask questions. I'm very happy to answer questions. And now it's an hour earlier, I can hang around a bit to answer questions because I thought I'd still be going by now at 10 o'clock, not 9 o'clock. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that then, folks. Shout out if you want to ask me anything online afterwards, and I will linger on the Facebook group. Thank you for joining me. Bye.